Many people think that you have to put tremendous amount of effort and work into achieving the society that you want to create, but perhaps it involves a level of letting go. And I've talked about this in several videos of mine before, talking about the value of doing nothing, but I used it in an analogy such as the fact that you can be in the show and just want to be in the show, or it could be the star in the show, but people aren't thinking about not being in the show at all, and totally getting out of that idea of show, because there's reality behind it. There's reality beyond it. And that is what we're trying to achieve. So the person that truly does nothing per se, the person that truly is a rebel, is the person who isn't in the show at all, not trying to have an identity, not trying to be a rebel. They just naturally are because they are themselves. And this type of mastery over ourselves is the greatest work that ever has to be done. Know thyself. So the one great work for humanity is not just work. In the same way, the most logical position is not built on the premises that one needs logic. It is the foundation that matters. Say you are to work on building anything. Without a foundation, your work will not sustain and it will be toppled over by the next. That does mean that your work may contribute to the next, but even more, it means your work is not the great work. A great work takes mastery, and mastery implies effortlessness. A master in their craft creates awe in those around them. They engage with skill that others would need much more time in order to learn. Yet, while the master still is learning, for what they have learned is so common to their nature that they are one with their work that they don't even need to call it work. Hence, we see the first moment where we see great work is not work. Would you want to do work on something you don't like? Would you not like something if you see its benefit? Say we are to assume our work does not have benefit, despite what benefit we think it should have. Then why do we still do it? And what benefit would it be if we just gave up? If we want to pursue the greatest work, would we give up? The truth is, that which matters is known by the masters. Not the masters who claim authority, but the masters who need not claim authority. Again, their work they don't even need to call work. The work shows itself. If it weren't sustainable for them, it would not be sustainable for others. But, you say, what about the masters who do claim authority? Those masters who say, I rule over your life, whether that be slave masters or it can even be a king or queen or president or minister of a nation that says you must obey me. Well, they too do what sustains them and their family. They too engage in work that may not be so much work as it is making false promises to those whom they rule, or merely transferring by stealing what work has already been created by others. But the difference is in the nature of mastery. The skill to deceive and rule over another is not the skill to rule over oneself and empower others with knowledge. The direction is different, the motive is different, but ultimately the morality is different. Morality refers to our relations among other people. When in the course of work do we not consider money, but rather morality? So many people in the world are worried about, I need to make more money, I need to do this, I need to do that, but they're not thinking about what is actually intended for the universe, not just for their own ego, for their own benefit, but for all peoples on earth and for the human destiny at large. That might seem like something, it's like, how am I supposed to perceive that? Maybe you don't have to worry about it so much, and because you're so worried about what you need to get done, it gets in the way of what nature actually gets done spontaneously on its own. Because we project, we have our subjective whims getting in the way of our world here. We think the world must be structured a certain way. We think we have the world figured out. We think it has to be done in a certain way, and therefore limit our conception of what is reality, which is way beyond than we can all conceive. So if we really want to create a great work, We need to have that bigger picture, and we need to understand morality, because we can work on morality, but even more so, we can work on the roots to morality, the relationship we have with oneself and others. The foundation gives rise to all things, much like the roots to a tree. Say we build a great work on morality itself. We define and get clear on every detail so we have a perfected structure. Well, like any structure, no matter how grand nor perfected in our own heads, it will fail. It fails not because of our wrongness, but the roots to wrongness, our ignorance of the bigger picture. You cannot build a structure at all and have no place to live, or you can have a structure where you built so much in order to have an attachment to it, and therefore suffering when you don't have it or when it goes away and it's not maintained the way you want. This fundamental discontent and need for complexity turns what seems like a great work into a work soon nobody remembers, or that which simply gets lost in translation, if not the physical world of nature itself. It is seeing the foundations of all work. It is seeing that all things empty in their nature makes things actually useful. It is realizing you cannot hold onto your ideology and identity or the past and future. It is being completely open and present. However, to put this into practice, it is the very opposite of creating, but rather embracing. For instance, instead of imposing upon someone what is right, we allow them to pursue what is right in their own mind as long as they don't impose it upon your own mind. This gives greater light to the golden rule, which is not a definition, but a mere observation of the synchronicity and reciprocity within the universe. It is then seeing the law of reflection and correspondence in all things, and the more we try to explain such things with words, we may find ourselves with a work not so great as we come to realize the foundations of words themselves. The minute we get stuck, the building no longer builds, or time catches up to speed and the building falls as it would have anyways. The work is not in getting stuck in the very first place, because that would insinuate we can't flow and align to the natural law of change. And the only way we don't get stuck is not just to make sure we aren't in our own way, but simultaneously to allow nature rather than attempting to control nature. Because would the master get stuck? No, for they are the master. They not even need to speak much. They don't even need others. We may even say that they don't even need themselves. They need nothing because they simply are. They simply be. And the truth is, it simply is. And for what we know of nature, we only know by not getting stuck and taking the time to reflect, which allows us to create in the very first place. Logic and work will only get someone so far before they realize the real work is with knowing non-action and open embrace. Work hard on the unworked and you will realize it is the unworked. Hard in the world of work, easy in the world. What do I mean by that last sentence? Because I like to be very poetical at times. Well, in reality, in the real world, we like to say, there is work that needs to be done. But when we're stuck in the artificial, man-made, materialist, consumerist world, we're not the producers. We are not fulfilling our greatest work. Our greatest work is with our passions, it is with our heart, it is with what we know we should do, but we push aside for the artificial, man-made, materialist, consumerist mindset that gets us trapped. And we must be able to balance, if need be, we must be able to find out what works for us and works for the world as well, because there's a lot of people who may be law enforcement, who are maybe policemen, who are partaking in work that isn't necessarily work for humanity. They might be hurting people. They might be contradicting their own morality, and they wouldn't do it if they weren't wearing this fancy uniform. They are doing it because they presume a position of authority over their fellow man, and therefore they're committing a work that isn't one of mastery, that isn't one of skill, but one of force and violence and presumption. and everybody has to go along with it, and then they are pushed into work that they don't want to be in. So if we want to create great work in the world, we need to make sure, indeed, that it's great. And great requires a lot of time, patience, and skill, and effort, we say. But not just effort, but being able to let go because of all our minds getting in our own way and telling us that we need to do certain things, and saying we need to put more effort in, when in reality, everything in nature, if we just look around us, grows spontaneously of its own. And the master can work with what already is and make it into something greater. They don't need to make something new. They can turn whatever. Somebody can give them a broken sword and they can repair it to new because they're a master, right? Somebody can ask them a simple question, and instead of giving paragraphs and paragraphs of answers, they can answer it in a simple sentence or in poetry, and it answers beyond all those paragraphs. I mean, just look at the Tao Te Ching, a book that I made a 9-hour presentation on. It's a poetry book. Kids can read that. Isn't that insane that we can take poetry and expand upon it so much? It's because it's wise words. Words coming from a sage, a master, we say, in the sense of skill and expertise. But there are masters in the world that we obey that aren't true masters. They just claim authority over your life. This we need to address. There's a mindset called statism. I'm going to put some questions on the screen for you. Answer these questions honestly. And if you want to learn more, go to theliberator.us. That's theliberator.us. You can also send me an article. I'll turn it into a video for you. We also have a bunch of projects and events, so be sure to get involved. Thank you very much for watching.